right. Let's see. We have several of our speakers up here. We have Dominic Tars, Nelson, Crypto Rye. How's everybody doing? And we're going to have a few more coming up here as well.
All good, thank you. Who's that speaking?
Hey, this is Connor. I'm actually one of the co-hosts. Normally, I have my own account that I co-host from, but we're having some internet issues on one of the ends from our normal person who hosts. So I'm here to help make sure there's somebody that can stream it.
Fair enough. I was hanging around there waiting. I was requesting to be a speaker for ages.
Yeah, I'm not sure what actually happened. It was Twitter. I could see like 6 or 7 different requests, and as I was hitting approve, it just seemed like Twitter didn't want to have anything to do with it. But looks like we got. Go ahead.
Was it on a desktop?
No. On my phone, actually, you can actually only join spaces and like do that sort of functionality from mobile, as far as I know. But yeah, it was very strange.
That's why I was asking. I was wondering if maybe you were trying it on desktop, and that was why it wasn't working. But strange.
No, yeah, it was actually more like a connectivity issue, I think. But yeah, looks like people are starting to funnel in. Looks like we have a couple more speakers who joined in to request. Hase, how's it going? Oh, did he join? Oh, maybe not. Okay, I'm still waiting for a few more speakers. Let's see if anybody else that I'm missing is coming up to be a speaker. Please send a request as well. But until then, I think we can go ahead and just sort of get started with the just general introduction and just sort of get everybody's names out there and get everybody to talk a little bit about what they're doing here and what we're going to be talking about today. We can start with myself. I'm Connor. Normally, I'm from the account called Kono, but today I'm joining from the Arena Games account. I actually work with a company called OrcDAO, and we are still sort of helping to lead a lot of the collaborative and partnership efforts with Arena Games, and I'm also helping out to co-host a lot of their speaking events. I'm here with James, and we're really excited to talk a lot about Web2 and Web3 gaming. I probably, for like a lot of people here, one of those people that migrated from Web2 just because a lot of different reasons, and I'm actually really excited to hear why people from each project is actually here in Web3, but also, their opinion on what's going on between the two different sectors. James, glad to have you here too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Connor. I'm James. I am the Chief Product Officer for Arena Games. I'm also an ambassador for Find Satoshi Labs and helped found a DAO called the F5 DAO that has multiple NFT projects. With Arena Games, we're really excited about our whitelist opening up for our first NFT collection. I'm sure we'll be able to talk about that later on as the space goes. And then I, too, am excited to hear from all the speakers here as we talk about Web2 versus Web3 gaming.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think a lot of people are excited. Just this topic is so broad. There's so many different ways you could go with it that, obviously we could probably be here for 3 or 4 hours, honestly, just covering the subject. But yeah, excited to hear what everybody else's opinion is and, just sort of where we're going with this movement from, traditional gaming into blockchain. Dominic, I'm just going to go in order of the speakers listed on my phone. So, Dominic, I'd love to hear from you and, what you're kind of excited about for the upcoming space.
Order on your phone, you say, and it's not. I know I'm your favorite. Don't worry. So I'm with Vemp. So Vemp Studios, we been going since August of 2021. So pretty much a dinosaur in this area now. Any protocol, game or metaverse based protocol that started before Facebook rebranded, I think that's what gets you a dinosaur label. Because after that, it's when the sort of space blew up. But so Vemp, actually, we're one of the advisors of Arena, wouldn't you know? But yeah, I've been in this space for a while. Vemp ourselves, we are a metaverse and gaming focused staking platform. So we used to facilitate staking of individual metaverse tokens like Sand and Mana. But we've pivoted that slightly now, and we are mostly looking at generalist sort of layer one pools, because that allows us to buy assets in a much wider variety of metaverses rather than just focusing on, a single metaverse where it's just lots and lots of lands. It allows us to basically have a very wide mandate. And so we offer a yield to users who stake on our platform in our own token VEMP. We then use the assets staked in order to earn a secondary yield in the actual token. So that allows us to deliver sort of yield aggregation returns without any inflation, because the secondary, at least in the secondary token, which is distributed from profits. So we develop our own games in-house. We'll be having a games launcher alongside a few individual games coming out over the next few months. So that's a brief overview of VEMP itself. My background before crypto was in traditional finance, so derivatives trading, and then wealth management and VC. So been around.
That's amazing. I worked a little bit in finance for a short time after college. I was doing financial advising, like trading and a few different things, but was not for me in that traditional finance setting. And honestly, in a weird roundabout way, how I ended up in crypto, even though it was like delayed by a few years. But yeah, I love hearing just people's backgrounds on like just the general way they found their way into Web3 and just their background. So thanks so much for sharing with us. Tars from ApeSwap.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure. I'm Tars. I'm from ApeSwap. I'm the director of growth over there, meaning essentially my job to be, scouring the Web3 ecosystem for partnerships that can help, push forward the overall ApeSwap and Web3 ecosystem. So, my role here is going to be a little bit different than some of the other speakers, I imagine, in the sense that my perspective comes from a different place, in the sense that I work for a DEX, right? And so a DEX, for those, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, is a place where people are going to be able to trade cryptocurrencies in a decentralized fashion. Instead of going through a centralized exchange, you would go through us, a decentralized exchange. And so, the viewpoint that I bring to the table is what we specialize in, and we talk to dozens and dozens of projects, and I say this all the time. So if anyone is in the room and you've spoken to me before, I'll probably sound like a broken record, but what I always say about ApeSwap, and I'm sure we'll get into more about this later, is that when it actually comes down to the nitty-gritty of building a Web3 game, or a Web2 game for that matter, we're not going to be the guys that you should come and talk to, because we're not going to be able to give you any advice on how to build your game. However, when it comes to your game's token economy, that is our expertise. We launched back in February of 2021, been around for over 2 years now. We have, just thousands of pages of on-chain data that verifies and informs every decision that we make. And so, if you're a game developer coming from Web 2 into Web 3, and now you're faced with this monstrosity that is token economies, and it's something that you're struggling to overcome or to even understand, that's where we can step in and help. So I'll stop hogging the mic there, but that's a little bit about us and what I do.
No, I love that. Yeah, tokenomics and like token economy and design is such a deep rabbit hole. And I've actually just been meeting with different people just in general, talking about it for various projects. And yeah, it's something that you really want to have expert opinion on, regardless of where it actually comes from. But yeah, I think having yourself either educated to an expert level or having someone on your team who can speak to that is pretty huge for pretty much any, crypto project, if it's going to involve some sort of token. So yeah, I'd love to hear that, and really excited to hear your opinion on some of our topics. Crypto Rye.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Hello.
Yep. How's it going?
Yeah, great. It's nice to be here with this very interesting people, and I'm a CBDO for Place War. I am Ryan, Crypto Rye. Nice to meet you guys. Yep.
Amazing. Awesome. And I know we have the PlaceWar actual main account here. Just so we're kind of on the same topic, who do we have speaking from PlaceWar? Or from the PlaceWar account?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sounds good.
So I'm Robert. I'm one of the business development director from PlaceWar. I have here with Rai. Nice to meet you all.
Awesome to meet you guys, and looking to hear more about how PlaceWar is sort of taking the same approach to like how are you bridging people over to Web3, or how are you tracking like Web3 natives? A lot of the different topics we're going to get into probably will come up just sort of naturally. So Kase, and then we have Nelson next, and then we can probably just get into our first topic. Oh, I have one more requested speaker actually, but go ahead, Kase.
Hey, yeah, it's Kase. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm the project lead of Portal Fantasy. So Portal Fantasy is a upcoming creature capturing RPG. The best way to think about it is kind of a mixture between Zelda, Pokemon, and Minecraft, where there's two roles. You can play as a hero where you're kind of exploring, questing, and capturing these creatures, but also as an architect where you're making these worlds for other heroes to explore as well. We're backed by quite a lot of Web3 and Web2 funds, as well as ecosystems. We've just launched our closed beta over on Avalanche and Polygon, and we'll be launching our full launch pretty soon.
Amazing. That's really awesome to hear, and I'm excited. I know we spoke on the space last week too, so excited to hear sort of the up and coming next saga in our conversation. So super excited to get to talk more. Lastly, we have Nelson.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Nelson. I'm the co-founder of Solus, and what we are doing is that we are a gamified derivative trading dApp. So I know that's a mouthful, so I'll just explain it in as simple words as I can. So a lot of people do know and do trade either in stocks or cryptocurrencies, but the people who actually know and who actually actively trade on derivatives are a bit less compared to the people trading on stocks and cryptocurrencies, right? And the major issue over there is that people are wary of investing amount in derivatives because of the high risk that it involves, right? So what we are doing is that we are gamifying the entire experience, wherein you can use in-game tokens, which will be issued by us, and you could actually trade on derivatives just like you would do on any normal exchange, but in our app, wherein you'll be using the game tokens, right? So in that way, we believe in educating the users or getting them into trading in derivatives in a gamified way. Right, and the reason why we chose Web3, like we could do this entirely in the Web2 space as well, but the reason why we pivoted from Web2 to say Web3 is because of the transparency, because of the public ledger, the basic functionality that blockchains have, right? So every transaction is right there on the blockchain itself. People can go in there, and it helps us in increasing the trust factor of the platform among the users. Right. So that's just very brief about me and about Solus. And like one of the very interesting speakers among the list that I found here personally is Tars, because Tars, honestly, we are working on the tokenomics. So probably we'll have to catch up later after this space. So yeah.
Awesome to hear, Nelson. Yeah, it's interesting when you get enough people in the same space in crypto together. Usually somebody knows somebody else or is already working with somebody else. So it's awesome to hear we already have some people that are collaborating on their own. So that's amazing. And I'm super excited to get into our first topic, which has kind of just not only been a Web3 topic, but just a topic I think in the mainstream in general is AI. So like there's AI integration. There's a lot of things and news coming out about AI and how people are going to be using it in the next coming years, and like what's going to happen from a regulation standpoint, what's going to happen from an economic standpoint, and a labor standpoint. Would love to get everyone's opinion on, how are your teams, your projects thinking about AI from like just in general, and then from like a gaming perspective or integration for your project. And James, I'd love to get your input too, because I know you have a lot of, we do a lot of the same reading on different articles. So yeah, I would love to get your insight on this too.
I love the idea of AI integration as it fits in with both Web2 and Web3 gaming. And I think that any projects, any companies that are sleeping on AI are probably going to missed the boat, but not to say there's not risk that are associated with it. I think in the blockchain world, if you're talking about NFTs and gaming, there's certainly a lot of artists that create unique art and make that an NFT. And artists don't love the idea of AI art that can steal their same designs. Use their art as training to train the AI model, and then all of a sudden you're creating derivatives that look exactly like their art without giving them credit. Without that, though, everything else about the AI integrations, be it ChatGPT type integrations to help with text, for marketing, for anything within the games, within the apps, the text to image that you can use for all kinds of things, the text to video that's happening now. I think that if we fast forward a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, so many games are going to have to use AI in order to map out the landscapes, in order to be able to expand and scale to the degree that they need. That AI is going to be a huge part of all of these projects in all capacities. I don't know that there's a lot of difference, though, between Web2 gaming versus Web3, other than that artist piece. I'm curious what everybody else kind of thinks about that. If, I guess Web2 artists will be as easily offended by AI models stealing their designs as Web3 artists will be. But it's a fun topic to dig into. I think we could do an entire episode just on AI.
Oh, for sure. And it's interesting with AI art. I know that was sort of the, I think, unexpected thing that a lot of people didn't see coming with AI. Everyone thought, it'll replace like a lot of jobs that are very repetitive. They're things that, we won't have to worry about creative invasion of like the workforce until much later. But it's what came first almost, or not first, but it's one of the very first mass uses of it. And now we're seeing this like mixture of creative people and technical people and just your layman who want to create awesome just images for themselves. They have no commercial intent. But like you said, there's people that are using it to essentially take work from artists in different ways. But yeah, it's such a broad landscape, and it's so new that it's like, it's like, how much are you willing to not sacrifice, but how much are you willing to put up with to, for the sake of what else AI brings? Like there's so many other things that comes with the AI. Then I think we'll figure out all the nuances of the actual like labor issue, because that's more of a legal regulatory issue anyway, of how, jobs are secured by people in the workforce. But yeah, I want to hear everyone else's opinion. Like, do you guys use AI in any way on your projects, for art, for video, for any sort of content? Is it strictly for, tasks and things like that? First one, or Dominique, yeah, go for it. Let's love to hear what you think.
I was going to say, I feel like it's something that I'm constantly searching to use, but finding everything I want to use it for, I just can't find the know-how and the applications to do it. I mean, it's like ChatGPT and OpenAI. Every time I go on it and like attempt to start using it, I get confused. I log in and like try and attempt to do X, Y, Z on it, and then it like limits me and tells me like that I've done something wrong, and then I see on Twitter that people are like pumping out this stuff which is like incredible, and like I attempt the same thing, and it's like my AI model has an IQ of like 20 compared to everyone else's who seems to have an IQ of 100. But I mean, it's certainly something that I've been wanting to do in terms of, particularly with a trading background. I've been wanting to use it for that side of things a lot, but it just hasn't. I haven't found anything smart enough, really. In its principles, I think like what is the difference? And with AI, like every single, for example, a game we're building right now is a build and battler. So there's always been an element of AI in the fact that the troops are, taught to go around walls or to attack in a strategic way in order to make the game better. And so there's a lot of AI that has always been there, but now it's that buzzword, and it's more about machine learning versus AI. And I don't think the definitions are necessarily sort of inclusive enough, because there's always been an element of AI in gaming, like what I mentioned about, troops not running headfirst into walls and stuff like that. So I think it already has tons of applications. It's just it hasn't been focused on, and it's more the space of how that can be improved, which is more the question, basically. Not sure that's not sure if I answered the question, but that was my thoughts spoken out.
I think that's a great take, Dominic. And, with your example about troops going into a wall, imagine a world where you're playing a game where the non-player characters, the NPCs, actually have machine learning over the course of the game. So if on level 1, the troops are going into the wall, and then level 2, they're more aware and they're not going into the wall and they're paying attention to how you fight them. And all of a sudden on level 3, they've learned what technique you used to fight them in level 2. And now they generate a completely new algorithm that's unexpected. And you may interact with those NPC troops in a different way than other players, because through machine learning, the AI is creating enemies that learn based on how you fought against them. I mean, that world of gaming sounds amazing to me, because so much of gaming becomes this repetitive learn the pattern, and all of a sudden you can abuse the pattern to beat a level. If the game itself can adapt to your play style, that becomes really interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's actually an example of this, like you said, there's obviously some level of AI and that goes on into any video game when, so you don't have those like really dumb NPCs that do just things that you're like, well, this isn't even fun because the guys are just running away from me. But if you have something like James said, where they're interactive NPCs, where they actually learn from you. One example is like in Dota, and this has actually been several years now, they created like an AI team of Dota players that battle, or it was an AI that created could control all the players and played against some of the best players in the world, and actually were able to beat them with techniques and strategies that people literally didn't think about because they were so off the wall and not what I guess considered meta within Dota, that it made people think about the game totally differently. So I would love to see that, but in a much more like individualized way for people. Like, say I'm playing the game Dark Souls, and Dark Souls is a very patterned, repetitive game. What if they start learning and then they start doing moves that I've never seen because they can create a move? They can create their own new like individual sidestep that I've never seen them do before. So yeah, any game that can create some new level of interactivity and engagement, I think is going to be leagues above anybody that's at some point still using like the traditional non-machine learning version of NPCs, because to me, it's more fun.
Absolutely. I love too, Dominic, what you said about figuring out how to use each of the tools, right? How do you use GPT, ChatGPT? How do you use Midjourney? How do you use Stable Diffusion? How do you use DALL-E? How do you incorporate these things into your everyday workflow? And I've got a friend of mine, Armandi, who likes to use the phrase "embrace the tool." And I think so much of this is learning how to use these complicated tools that require knowledge and how to build prompts to get a desired result, right? And to create an analogy of that, imagine if you have zero graphic design experience and I ask you to take a graphic and to like alter it and change it using Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever. If you don't have experience using those tools, it's going to be very difficult for you to figure out how to use those. I've got so many buttons and so many different prompts and so many different ways to do it. And I think we're going to find both in Web 2 and Web 3 gaming throughout all jobs that those that have trained themselves how to create prompts and how to use these tools are going to be very desirable and be able to make a decent salary, a really good living, because knowing how to use these tools is going to be so important.
Awesome. Yeah, and I have so much to say about this, but I see several hands raised, and I want to make sure we let our speakers talk as well. I saw Nelson's hand first, and then we can go to Crypto Rye. Nelson, love to hear what you're thinking.
Sure thing. So I'm completely with James on this. So when we're saying that AI AI won't be something that would be replacing everything, right? So I would consider AI to be a tool in and itself, and I use ChatGPT as a tool itself, right? So that tool can be very it can help me to do some very trivial tasks, such as say for example, I just want to remind my investor that I need the funding in like say 2 or 3 days. How do I remind him in a very polite way, right? So I would be using AI in those ways as a tool itself to increase my efficiency, right? The same way I would be using DALL-E as well. So if I want a quick graphic spit it out, so I won't be actually going to Canva and then probably creating a graphic or ask my graphic designer to create something for me. I'll be just using DALL-E and putting in my prompt over there and then using that graphic for me. So at the end of the day, it actually increases the speed of execution of anything that I want that thing to be done, right? So I would completely consider AI to be a tool, right? So I just wanted to emphasize what James said right there.
Yeah, and I think, I'll speak to that just a second, but I want to let Ryan also speak because I want to make sure it's still a conversation. Ryan, sure, love to hear what your thoughts are.
Well, I do agree to the both of them. I mean, AI can assist us also in the terms of development to have more realistic and responsive game characters and environment, making the game feel more like a living, breathing world by using machine learning and other AI technologies. I mean, Web3 game developers can create more immersive or dynamic and more personalized gaming experience for all of us.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a broad topic that there's the side of it's a tool. There's the side of how are other companies going to use it to make whatever they make more fun or more engaging or more interactive for their audience. But I agree in a lot of ways with if it's a tool, it's more about the use of the tool, just sort of like anything else. And I think that if we're working to, if it's for efficiency, if it's for the betterment of the actual project itself, that is a huge implication for just any company overall. Like it levels the playing field for a lot of people. If these tools are ubiquitously available in general, obviously there's costs that come with that, but it can make any team that had the disadvantage of size shrink that disadvantage by a pretty considerable amount. I know we have a couple of other speakers that haven't had a chance to talk yet. Tars, Kasey, anybody else that wants to speak? If you want to raise your hand or just go ahead and unmute and speak, we'd love to hear from you guys too. If not, we can, unless anybody else had more to contribute, we can probably move on to the next topic.
One of the things that we talk about at ApeSwap all the time, when it comes to the whole, AI topic is that, it's potentially, the next quote unquote big narrative, which is always exciting, especially when it comes to, altcoin trading and so on and so forth. But beyond that, a saying that I've heard lots of people on our team sort of echo is that we're not necessarily concerned that AI will quote unquote replace people, but what we are convinced of is that people who use AI will replace people who do not. And so that's something that we are trying to, essentially stay ahead of the curve on and make sure that we are finding ways to utilize it in every different vertical of our business. We're a DAO, and so we do organize within sub DAOs. I'm one of the directors of the business development sub DAO. And so for us, we try and figure out how do we utilize this technology to make sure that the business development sub DAO is operating as efficiently as possible. So whether that's, emulating our writing styles in large text responses for different things, or whether it's, email replies, or whether it's organization of different, multiple different backend data points. There's so many different things that we've been able to utilize it for that used to be busy work that is now, just faster. And then I know that our devs are using it to help them. Obviously, it's not writing code for any of us or for any of our devs, but it's helping them just make things go faster. So, yeah, it's an exciting time for sure, and I think it's here to stay, and people just need to figure out how they're going to utilize it best.
For sure. And yeah, I totally agree with that. There's a lot of things that can help you be better. And yeah, it's kind of like if you just refuse to use the internet when it became kind of integrated into everyone's lives, at some point you definitely fell behind. I saw Kasey, definitely want to hear what you have to say. And then I saw James wanted to input too.
Yeah, I'll just keep this short because I totally agree with everyone. I don't want to kind of repeat everyone's points in any way, but I think I just wanted to kind of say one specific example on our side, which is we have this whole kind of webcomic series that kind of backs the game, and that kind of bleeds into the NPC dialogues and stuff. And we were seriously considering kind of using some form of AI, probably ChatGPT, to help kind of speed that process up a little bit. But what we decided against was was the fact that basically we were really worried about the coherence, because we already had a sizable amount of lore that was built up in a certain style, and we just weren't convinced that ChatGPT or any AI model would be able to kind of replace that in terms of the way that we kind of write it. So it would have been like a little bit off, and it would have been felt a little bit weird as well. So I think we definitely want to look for places to use it in the future, but if for us, it would have to be for things that we're starting off rather than kind of continuing things that we've already kind of released out there.
I wanted to comment overall, like one of the major differences between Web3 gaming and Web2 gaming, I feel like, is community. Not that Web2 games don't build massive communities, and many of them do, but Web3 gaming, there's almost a different expectation, right? You build a Discord server and you have a constant chat with the founders. The community members that purchase an NFT or a game license almost feel like they've invested in the game, and they have a greater expectation of communication and what's happening and what's changing with the game, and you know what's going on with the community and how do I ROI. They join into these Telegram chats and these Twitter spaces, and there's a much higher level of community building and expectation of communication that comes along with that. And I wonder if AI doesn't in some ways play into that, where I can take a model like ChatGPT, I can program it with my white paper, I can program it with the information of what's happening with the project. I create a channel within Telegram, within Discord, almost a customer service feed where those most common frequently asked questions can now be asked of ChatGPT, of the AI, and get instant answers on exactly what you're thinking of. You know, when's the NFT launch? When's the IDO? When's this? When's that? How's this in the white paper? So instead of a community member having to go dig through many pages of white paper, they can get answers instantly. I wonder if that progresses and becomes a thing, or if the concept of creating community requires you to have a human being on the other end answering that question instead.
Yeah, interestingly, one of the first people that I saw using ChatGPT outside of the fun way of like, oh, look what we can do with it, and they're using it. A lot of healthcare companies, especially hospitals, were using it as their customer service. They got the premium version, or or with OpenAI to get a much more integrated version with their actual SOPs, documents, their full data bank system. And then, they have chatbots that are running on ChatGPT doing exactly that. Like, hey, when is my appointment with Dr. So-and-so? I have a surgery next week. And it'll just give you like, oh, here's your schedule for next week. Here's your medical records, and it can actually process all that. And I guess what they assume is the safe way for medical records in the US, that's pretty stringent. So I would assume it's, up to par to some degree. No idea what that costs, but that's a very transactional thing, though. A lot of people in hospitals feel like they're undergoing a transaction versus like they're not in a community hospital, or maybe some do, but in the US, a lot of it feels very transactional. So yeah, I'm interested, like maybe there's a mix of both. Cause like for me, I don't always want to wait for a customer service person. If I know I can get the answer from a chatbot, but it's getting the answer I want, I will do that. But a lot of people love that human interaction. So yeah, what does everybody else think? Like, are you guys looking at like AI or any sort of thing for community building? Like, how does AI or anything play into like how you guys are working on community?
Cool. Tell you what, I wish I had an AI. Well, then again, you can program like the rose bots to automatically kick anyone who says the word when. That's always a good function of AI.
Love that.
I mean, I actually spoke to someone yesterday who's been using AI to basically try and build social followings, and I thought it's very dystopian. I love it. And so this person purchased a certain amount of like old Twitter accounts and has been using like some sort of AI content tool in order to scan like Twitter for like what's trending, like top posts, and basically just copy it and then repost it with a different voice, as in like tone of voice, you know, like an individual. Some of them might use more capitals than others, etc. Like a lingo, basically, and push those out on all of these accounts, and built the followings from like 1 million to like 10 million. So just like you think like these accounts that people follow for like trading tips or like XYZ reasons, and it could literally just be like one bloke farming. And so I think that there's a lot of I think it was a quote by one of the CIA directors said that we'll know that our espionage is working when the population no longer know what's real and what's not. And that's very much what I think it will end up with when AI can do all of this content in moderation, because you're just going to be, you'll have no clue who is a human or not if it gets good enough. And judging by what this person was producing and what he said about it, he said like it's when they release the product, if they get that far, because he thinks that there's no way that they won't get bought out before they even bring the product to market, because it'll be a game changer. And so I'm trying to get him to let me have access before it goes to market, so that it doesn't end up getting nicked by someone like Microsoft and never seeing the light of day. But yeah, it's going to be both scary and incredible.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's almost like none of us here can individually do anything to stop it. It's now that it's out, it's almost its own monster that's going to keep growing, no matter how we can do is sort of like channel it the way that people with good intent can. But I also just heard that from what you said about the CIA, that we definitely need a conspiracy theory episode. So that's going on the schedule.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Nelson raise his hand as well. I'd love to get your input.
Yeah. So what are the things you just mentioned? Those seem like really big things. So I'll just explain how we are planning to use AI in our app. So full disclosure right here. So like we are not currently using AI in any of our customer journey, be it the customer interaction or inside the app itself. But that said, how we are planning to use AI is that since our app, that is Solus, is completely on getting people to learn how to trade. So we are planning to have like an AI assistant sort of thing, which would be unlocked based on some credentials or some levels that the player would clear inside the level. So once the player would unlock that feature, they would get an AI assistant, which would basically help them to make better trades inside the app so that they get better returns on their investment. Right. So that is one of the ways that we are using AI, or at least we are planning to use AI on our app. And it circles back to the same point that I just mentioned, wherein we believe that AI is a tool to accentuate the skill set that people already have, and to also learn with the AI. Right. So that is one of the use cases that we are planning to incorporate inside our app.
That's interesting, yeah, because you can kind of take that concept of like an AI assistant even into the community building stage of like, maybe it's not a Discord bot that's an AI where it's one place you go to. Maybe there's a way there, and maybe it doesn't exist yet, but an AI that you can assign similar to like Siri or Cortana, but for like your community. And maybe they literally don't have time to get into the Discord today, but they can interact with your AI, their own AI assistant, and it's trackable on your end. You're like, oh, hey, they used our AI to ask about the white paper and the token launch and all this stuff. So you're still getting information on what people are asking, and they feel like they're being heard because they know that all this information is coming from your AI, not like a generalized AI software. I think that for any game or any community or just really anyone in general, I would feel pretty cool if I knew that a project was giving me that sort of tool, even though on the back end, they're partnering with someone for the software or whatever it is. But I know that they're giving me just another tool as a community member to feel like I'm always up to date on the project. Oh, So James on mute, but I was going to ask if Place War or Tars, if you guys, we're still kind of on the topic of AI, but would love to hear how you guys are thinking about community as well as like what does AI and like just general community building look like for you guys? Place War for sure.
So hello, just like Dominic mentioned before, we also have that Rosebot, which you can filter spam, hate messages, or other inappropriate content. So the platform is safe and more welcoming for all members. So we can also expect AI to increase engagement. Like for me, I think AI can help to identify and highlight popular topics or discussions within the community. Like so which can encourage more members to participate and engage with each other.
Totally. James, I saw you raise your hand, and then Tars definitely would love to have get your input too.
I think community building and retention is a really fascinating spot to take this conversation to, right? Because in the world of Web3 gaming, your ability to build a community and then to retain that community over time, I think is very different than what happens in the Web2 world. And so much of what we need to do in gaming is to either evolve the game, right? Have the game change over time. Maybe think about how the live service games have been so successful and have seasons, or add on additional games. One of the things we're planning to do at Arena Games is to have multiple games that are there and available to you. So right now we've got the beta test of Arena Master that you can play. This is one of those gem break games where you try to line up 3 gems in a row or more, and then it breaks those gems and the rest fall down, right? We got a tank game getting ready to come out. We've got games that'll be mobile based on Android or iOS, and then games that'll be browser based, or maybe more of a full download, something like you might see on Steam or Epic Game Store. And I think that over time, these projects are going to have to figure out how to build a robust community, but then how to retain them. And I think that what we'll find is that keeping one game that's static and doesn't change and doesn't update probably is going to be harder to retain people. You're going to have a really high churn rate. People are going to get burned out on that game. They're going to get tired of that game and move on to other things. And so figuring out how to evolve those games and add on additional games is one of the ways we're looking to fight that at Arena Games. I'm curious what everybody else plans to do.
Yeah, Tars would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I love the topic of community building as well. It's not something that I get to engage in a lot myself, to be honest. Just in the vertical that I work in, we do have our more community centric sub-DAO as well that focuses more on the community building side of things. But for anyone in BizDev who is listening, one way that we do use AI that I think is very, very clever in our BizDev strategy. At least it's something that's currently being built for us. So it's not deployed yet. So I shouldn't speak out of turn, but it's being built is what we're calling a sentiment bot, essentially. That one of the things that we deal with all the time is the fact that there are communities that are potentially confused about how to use DeFi services, especially actually when we're dealing with GameFi communities, because a lot of times we'll have these GameFi projects that are actually bringing in gamers from the traditional space. And so a lot of these people are coming in from traditional gaming, and the whole DeFi space is a little bit confusing. And so we want to be able to break down barriers, but it's difficult to do that if we don't know what those barriers are. So what this bot is designed to do is to essentially detect different types of FUD that may crop up in a particular community's Telegram chat, so or Discord chat, etc., so that as a DEX, we can help our partners address that specific FUD. So if we're hearing from a particular community that they're very confused about setting the slippage correctly on their token, or adding liquidity, or doing so many different things that are different and not typical in traditional gaming, we can detect that and then equip them with the tools necessary to educate the users specific to their issue.
That's really interesting. That's actually kind of similar to what Placewar was talking about with the idea of like, what is the community talking about in a Discord, where it's more about like, what is the social element that they're discussing, so you can sort of hone in on like, okay, we know they talk a lot about like DeFi trading, so yeah, let's start like maybe looking at partnerships with different DeFi platforms, because for however this happened, and whoever we were marketing to, they also enjoy all talking about DeFi. So yeah, having something for community that lets you really understand your community better without the weirdly inhumane version of like spamming them with bots, spamming them with different surveys that they never actually take. You can kind of see it from the back end, and you're just more observing with many eyes versus just manually having to dig through all of that data, which is kind of huge just in time saving. But also, I feel like it's good for your community. If you can tailor the community's experience, that's better for everyone. The community wants that. They want something that they want, and they want new things they don't even know they want. So yeah, I love that concept of having a sentiment bot. I've never actually heard someone use that term before, but yeah, I think having a community sentiment that you can always tap into is massive for anyone, games, DeFi platforms, any crypto project, Web2 project. I think that level of insight into your community can be a massive advantage. And even for retention, like coming in and saying, well, they're here because they like to be here and we know what more to give them. How does everybody else, just in general, maybe not just with AI or in terms of AI, think about like building their community, listening to their community, and sort of hearing what they're having to say? I haven't heard from Kasey in a while, or Nelson, Dominic, anybody who wants to raise their hand. If nobody else wants to, James, would love to get your insight too.
I need to, unfortunately, jump off in 3 minutes, so I'll take the opportunity to just mention it rather than just leaving rudely without saying goodbye. So thanks very much for having me all, but I'll let somebody else answer.
Appreciate that, man. We'd love to hear that. Sorry, we went a little bit over time here on this one, but thank you so much for joining us. And then I saw Kasey unmute. So yeah, love to hear what you guys are thinking about community.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I haven't kind of talked about it is because I feel like our use case of this is kind of stupid. It's, you guys are all talking about like changing the world and all these other like major kind of big use cases for AI and data in general. But we did this campaign a while back because we have this character in our game that basically is a little bit sassy. So we thought it'd be funny to program a really basic model which would take in the input from players who talk to us in Discord or tagged us on Twitter, and basically just come back with an insult for them. And that was pretty good from a community point of view, because the amount of people who actually liked being insulted was pretty shocking. And we had a lot of kind of interactions with people on Twitter and on Discord as well. And yeah, turns out the team also really liked it. So we actually have it as a fixed kind of staple in our internal Discord as well within the team that we use. Yeah, it's a little bit of I guess a funny use case compared to what you guys were talking about.
I love that, how outside the box ideas can help with community building and retention and get people interacting with each other in Discord and Telegram, on social media platforms, Twitter, wherever, hanging out, sharing, what they saw with those insults with each other, and just having fun with something that was totally outside the box. I think those are the ideas that will keep projects moving forward and keep people retained, right? It's coming up with unique, different things that everyone can interact with, that keeps the churn rate low and users hanging around.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. The psychology that goes into communities and like goes into interacting with people is so, like, you're interacting with people. It's like probably the most complicated thing you can do, just trying to understand what they want, what they need, why they're upset, and like just everything that goes into that. And yeah, you would think, oh, we can't insult our community. That would be horrible. But you never know. There's actually a restaurant here. I live in Texas, and I don't know if they're in other parts of the country, but it's actually called Dick's. And the entire restaurant, instead of a nice wait staff, everyone is super rude and mean. Like, they literally insult you. They're late with your food. And it's the craziest thing. They will like out you in front of other people, put a hat on your head and like make fun of you, and people love it. They go and they pay hundreds of dollars to be made fun of. And so, yeah, I love that idea of like, if you know your community enough, you can do so many more things than just like traditional promotions and marketing stuff to actually really get into like, okay, how can we make them laugh? How can we make them have fun? And how can we make this like more of an experience and not so much just like, we're here to like hang out in Discord, or we're here to just do a thing. So that's so great. I love that you guys are doing that. And you said like, oh, everybody else is doing world changing things, but like, I don't know, man, if you, and grassroots movements, that's how a lot of things get started. And even just making someone laugh is a huge thing for, I don't know, just on the internet. And that's more of like, you know, society and like all this other stuff. But, you know, it's awesome to hear that people are having fun with the community in small ways, not just like these massive ways too.
I'm kind of curious from the perspective of non-gaming projects, right? I mean, we've got a good mix here. We've got Solus and Portal Fantasy, Place War, Ape Swap. That's a DEX, right? So, Tars, you're the director of growth at a DEX. How much time as a director of growth do you think about trying to retain the customer, right? Build a community, get them to hang around, reduce churn rate, as opposed to constantly seeking out collabs to find new people to come in and use Ape Swap for the first time? I would think that so much of what games and game platforms like arena games try to do to build community and to retain community could apply to a DEX as well if you want to think outside the box about it. But I don't know that I see many DEXs even thinking about like, how do you engage the community members to get them to hang out with each other, as opposed to, we've got the lowest fees, it's the easiest to trade on our DEX, so come to our DEX instead of somewhere else, you know?
Totally. You know, it's interesting. So in my particular vertical, what I focus on a ton is customer retention in the form of B2B customer. Because that's the interesting part about a DEX, right? Is that so much of our service offering is actually servicing other Web3 projects as opposed to our community itself. And so it's kind of it's an interesting balance because, you know, we want to be able to offer the best services we can to, you know, our book of business from a B2B perspective. But along those same lines, and anything that we do when we make deals with another project, that does sort of trickle down into our community and affects them as well. So it is always fascinating for me to see, like, I'll close a deal. For example, a couple months back, we did a deal with the Floki Inu community, and, you know, they listed their token, did some treasury bills, etc. And it was really, really hype, and people got super excited, and the community effect from that was evident. However, a lot of other times we'll be working with projects that, you know, they've only got 5,000, 10,000 followers on Twitter. It's a little bit of a smaller community. And so the splash that has into our community, you know, sometimes is a little bit smaller. So it's interesting. I do know that the marketing team and the community team do spend a lot of their effort and focus in making sure that we do have a fun and engaging and educational community. I'd say that last part is something that we double down on a lot when it does come to the B2C side of things as opposed to the B2B, is education, right? Because for us, education and ease of use is absolutely paramount. The DeFi space is confusing, and getting into it can be difficult. So what we've tried to do is make the platform itself as simple and as easy to use as we possibly can. You know, we do have a partnership with MoonPay, so that if users don't have any funding on the blockchain currently, they can, you know, onboard directly on our front end using our MoonPay partnership. And then another thing that we've done is we've integrated what we call a smart router into our DEX itself. And what this does is it actually finds the best possible route for any trade, regardless of whether it's on our DEX or a competitor's DEX. And the reason being is because at the end of the day, we want our users to get the best possible rates. And so if we can't provide it, we think it's silly to force them to go somewhere else to find it. So we just find it for them and, you know, and aggregate it right in. However, like you said, I'm getting back into the tech side of things. You know, why it's technically good. But Yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question in any form or not, but as far as the B2B retention rate, our internal goal is that any projects we're working with, helping them with their liquidity, so on and so forth, is our internal goal is that we have an 80% retention rate in those from a client perspective. But from the community, it's so much harder to measure, for sure.
It's a really fascinating answer. I appreciate it. I think a lot of it applies directly to what Arena Games is trying to do as well, right? We're trying to go out and find Web2 games that don't have any interest in trying to build blockchain into their game and create them a way that they can use our platform, our leaderboards, and provide the benefits of blockchain technology, the rewards to their users of blockchain technology. So as you have that B2B conversation, I would think that part of what we want to communicate over time is that if you trust us, if you trust our platform enough to bring your game here, we're not only going to fight to retain you, but we're going to try to fight to retain all your users. And if we could show that 98% of the players that you bring to Arena Games to play your game and rank on our leaderboard and earn rewards are going to stay, that we're going to have that community building and retention, and they're going to like being here, how much easier does that make my B2B conversation to convince future Web2 companies to bring their game to our Web3 platform? I would think it'd be the same way for you guys with the DEX or with any of the projects we have on board, wouldn't it?
Totally. No, that actually makes a ton of sense. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why our marketing team tries to engage so heavily with any project that we're working with. One of the things that you'll see is every time we're going to do a new liquidity management campaign, whether that is more traditional with pools and farms, or whether that's moving into the new direction that we're heading with the sustainable liquidity mining using the bonding product. But either way, what the marketing team does is they try and make it as easy as possible for that particular project to communicate what's happening to their community to make sure that they know how to A, get plugged in, B, actually use the services that are being created for them, and then C, understand why it's beneficial for them in the first place and why they should even care. So, one of the things that I take great pleasure in is the fact that, once I finish working with a project, I'm able to pass them on to my marketing team, and they create a whole litany of custom assets and Twitter threads and whatnot for that project to be able to use at their leisure in order to make sure that their community is well engaged. So yeah, it's definitely a major part of it for sure.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because the idea of like bringing in users is pretty uniform across everybody that's building a Web3 project. If you have like an end user type platform, it's not strictly B2B. So there's so many different aspects of like community that have to be taken care of. Like you need people to feel comfortable and trustworthy of the project. You need people to be able to get all the information easily and not be frustrated by it. A good customer support system. But then there's also the social aspect. Like, are they having fun? Are they here for more than just financial reasons or for because their friend told them to be here to win a competition, so they'll dip as soon as that's over? It's really about why are these people all coming together, and what's the glue that keeps them there. And I think for each project and each community, it's always different, but there's definitely limits and like levels of cohesion that kind of is unanimous across all these different types of projects, like whether you're a DEX, a game, another form of infrastructure company, or a platform like Arena Games. Like there's all this coalition and collaboration between these different people that I think it's so important that we always remember that, like, in Web2 gaming, a lot of what's happened is like the sectoring off of different people. Like there's the Epic Games Store, there's the PlayStation Store, there's the Xbox Store. They're really trying to monopolize on their communities, versus Web3's advantage is our ability to collaborate, even though each project is individually smaller. I think it's really important just in general that these types of spaces, these things that we're doing where we talk to different projects and different communities, makes a huge difference for anyone that's really trying to join Web3 if they actually value those social aspects as well. People love playing games with their friends, so I think it's really just about changing the narrative of Web3 gaming in general to know that you can do the exact same thing you do there and more. So yeah, I know that there's a lot of different ways that we can build community, and we can talk about how to bring people on. But one thing I know that deters a lot of people just from crypto and blockchain in general, this will probably be our last topics, so we'll already run a little bit over here, but I definitely want to get everyone's input on this, especially since we have some non-gaming, especially DeFi projects here, on and off ramping of fiat to the blockchain. A lot of people feel they don't even know how to get started because they can't access the blockchain without going through, very traditional methods. So love to get, James, I see you're unmuted. Would love to get your input on this. And then any projects that's kind of thinking, how do we get people past this like weird barrier of, coming online on Web3?
I think this is a great topic, and it's so interesting, and it applies to Web2 and Web3 gaming, right? Where you have a Web2 game that wants to charge whatever it is, $5 a month, or they want to charge a microtransaction or whatever, and they have to fight this thing where you got to get a player to attach a credit card, and then all of a sudden, okay, this is on the Play Store on Google, or it's on the Apple Store, and you have to give a cut to those entities, or to a cut to Steam, or a cut to Epic, or a cut to whatever platform you choose. Now you move that to the Web3 world, and you add in the complication of now converting fiat currency through an on-ramp into a cryptocurrency and into a wallet and then into the game. Do you have them have to purchase an NFT or purchase a specific token? What blockchain is it on? Are they on the right blockchain? The whole education part that Tars was talking about earlier becomes so crucial in helping lower that barrier to entry to help your players figure out how to get into your ecosystem even to begin with. So many games out there are starting with a free to play, right, where you can actually get into the game and enjoy the game, learn that you enjoy it before asking for any kind of an on-ramp to figure out how to bring any kind of currency on board. I think this is a puzzle that we're all really going to have to solve to create any kind of a mass adoption.
Yeah, 100%. There's so much friction. I mean, in any business, there's going to be some sort of friction to get your customer to, buy something, join the thing that you want to join, whatever it is. But like, there's just layers that you have to peel back with crypto because it's so new, and no one's really figured out that like seamless method that, Apple figured out for the iPhone, or Microsoft figured out for just general PC operating systems. Like, there was a way, or like a turning point where someone figured out, oh, this is how you do it easily for people, and people just like doing it because they're not having to think too hard. Surprisingly, people don't like thinking. So I would love to know what is we actually just got SphereOne on here. I know that we weren't having some trouble getting you on this page earlier. Would love to hear, what are you guys thinking about for this problem of bringing people on chain and then getting them off chain for, if there's any kind of rewards.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you guys. This is Will with SphereOne. I run operations and marketing. There's definitely a problem with bringing people on chain. It's hard to bring people on from Web2 that aren't as familiar with the Web3 space. So kind of what we're doing at SphereOne is back in 2021, both our co-founders, Chris and Ryan, they kind of realized that there was a problem in the space with the cross-chain infrastructure, and the fact that it was slow and it was hard to go cross-chain with bridges, and a lot of lack of security with chains being hacked, and lots of funds. So kind of what SphereOne does is we kind of solve that, and we bring cross-chain functionality, easy to use for your everyday user, being able to use like Polygon, Ethereum, Solana, and such, in just a matter of one click. But yeah, those are the kind of things that I think that we can be using to revolutionize and kind of help everyday users get on to Web3 space and play games such as arena games and such like that.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear that there's people trying to attack this problem from different angles. I think if everyone was just trying to do the same ham-fisted method, and we would all be beating our heads against the wall, kind of just like at the beginning of when Web3 gaming really started to take off, late 2018, and then up to now, like these concepts of like people already hate connecting their credit card to anything anyway because they're like, oh, am I going to get charged at the